Hey Sorabh, fantastic to have you on this podcast session.
Thanks, Ram, for calling me on the session.
For the sake of the audience, can you start with a brief introduction?
Right. So I have worked about 15 odd years into corporate. So I worked in automobiles for about 3 years, debt capital market for about a year, and then finally into a knowledge process outsourcing company called Copal, where we were into investment banking and private equity outsourcing. So worked there for about 11 odd years. And since 2016, once the last venture got sold, I have been investing into startups. So currently we have invested in over 90 startups and about 12 funds. We invest across. So there are investments in US, UK, Singapore, Mauritius. Majority of the investments are based out of India. So we are a small angel syndicate, about 250 angels, where we invest into these assets early stage when the companies are small, and we just continue to invest and remain invested in assets for long term.
Awesome, awesome. I know apart from funding people who have already decided to start something, you also try very hard to convince people in their jobs कि छोड़ो यार ये सब क्या कर रहे हो, start something on your own.
I hardly do that, Ram.
I mean, I know you've been trying that with me for a while, and I've seen you do the same with a few others. So, just out of curiosity, how many people have you been able to convince?
Eight till now.
Wow. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right.
It's actually most of the people are looking to start. They just need some trigger,
Right.
and I'm just providing that trigger to them.
आपके कंधे पे हाथ रख के बंदूक चला लेते हैं वो लोग. हाँ चलो, सौरभ ने बोला, so let's get started types.
And it's once you tell people that you can start and I have your back, people generally tend to start and then they realize there is nothing like having back, right? It's like they just float.
Right, 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 right. No, that's really good stuff. I don't know how many people actively do that. Great to know that at least 8 people started out thanks to your nudging. Coming to the investor portfolio, even before you put a formal structure to AngelBay when it was a informal group, you were very particular about keep it small, keep it a closed group. In fact, when you introduce your group as well in public forums, I've seen you very specifically say, we are a closed group of investors. Almost feels like ये कुछ exclusive, snobbish वाला हिसाब किताब है. I'm just curious why that kind of an approach.
So actually, you can work on two matrices. Either you can try to maximize the investment size, or you can start maximizing IRRs, right? Since we do have limited capital and every deal we are putting our money in, so we tend to focus on increasing IRRs. Now, there are two aspects to increasing IRRs. One is obviously finding the right companies. Secondly, moving with velocity. Now, in case I do have potentially 1,000 investors and a lot of these guys are not connected to me, the problem is they will treat you as service providers and their service requirements are a lot different. So rather than potentially closing a deal, I might be just responding to their queries. And that slows me down. And that's why we have just kept it small, a level where we can manage easily. So nothing like snobbish out there.
uh, Talking about keeping pace on the deals rather than keeping the pace on servicing investors. I am part of your group. I'm actually invested in you as an entity, and I don't know how many months have passed since you've shown us a deal. In fact, now I saw your message that you're trying to raise more debt money as well. करोगे क्या पैसे का? मतलब when will the deal start flowing? What's going on?
So it's actually being in the market for last 20 years, right? You see these 7 or 8 years cycles in the market. So what happens is when the markets are down, that's the point you look for liquidity. Because what you know is market will turn someday, and in case you don't have enough cash lying around with you, you won't be able to strike the deals. Because most of these deals in the market happen in case you've got liquidity. Now, there are deals where we get, in case we can put in money in next 7 days, it's fine. Otherwise, the deal is gone. So for that, you generally tend to create liquidity. Now, last 6 months, we haven't been able to find a good deal, but doesn't mean that next 6 months we won't be able to find a deal, right? Because after a while, the deal just gets to you. That's statistically, I think, proven thing that deals will anyway come. So we're just preparing for the future.
Cool, cool. I will look forward to some exciting deals from your way. Uh, you know, you really built like a proper network of networks, so to say. There are other angel groups, there are micro VCs, there are accelerators, there are things in between, so to say.
Mhm.
And personally, I get very confused that, okay, this deal, should I only send you or you plus Fard, or should I speak to you or Aron or Vineet if it's a ESG deal? How do you uh, how do you manage overlaps or conflicts? Are you clear कि कहाँ क्या लगेगा, or it's like free for all देखी जाएगी? Just trying to understand your approach.
So we are actually personally believe in reducing friction and reducing conflicts in the system. So when you look at from my side, I'm clear about why I'm investing into a particular asset. How does it fit or overlaps with any of the portfolio companies, right? So you can't avoid overlaps, obviously, but one of the things in a startup ecosystem is it's very, I would say, collaborative, right? So even if there are overlaps, you don't see a lot of conflicts coming in. So when you talk about a lot of other angel networks which are in the market, we are working collaboratively with them. And the deals generally aren't a mode now because founders go to multiple networks together, right? So till the time you're clear in your mind which network does what or what kind of deals they like, it's a lot easier for us to just slot in the deals there. And that's how I manage personally.
Well, I wish you the best. Next time I get a deal, I'm gonna ask you for your theory कि boss ये इधर fit होगा या उधर fit होगा, and then I will know better whether you are clear or you are also getting confused.
I will at least project that I'm clear now. You gave me an answer.
You'll be like the typical founder who has the answers to everything, even though he's internally confused, but he's gonna project confidence, say, yeah, this is what it is.
How do you even check whether I'm let's say talking sense or not? So till that time I'm covered.
Good shit, good shit. Talking about investments, would love to know how you approach assessing a deal, and typically how much time do you take to decide on an investment? Uh, just elaborate a bit.
Right. So typically it takes about 3 to 5 days to assess a deal, end to end. We don't do heavy diligence on the paperwork per se. For us, it's mainly talking to founders, talking to a few of their customers in case they're relevant. In case they're working with few large vendors, just giving in a call to vendor. So a lot of these conversations are a lot easier, not time consuming. They're just you're doing a rev check and all that, right? And once you look at the deck and founder is able to clearly tell you what they're looking for, why they're looking for, what's the valuation, why that valuation, knowledge. So a lot of these conversations give you a sense about the founders and the team. And sometimes you need to do follow-up calls because certain places we don't understand the deal at all. We bring in subject matter expert. Now, in this case, it's a pharma deal. I don't know about salts or pricing or anything. So a pharma guy will come and he may have some things of his own. So it takes 2 3 days. But otherwise, like in 5 6 days, it's a lot easier to probably figure out a deal, unless it's a complex deal, which might take a few weeks.
Have you ever done like spur of the moment decision, or have you taken like also on the other extreme long time to decide, huh, this is a deal worth investing in?
Yeah, so I can actually even openly name because the founder recently named that thing. So one of our portfolio companies is PSAFE, and that's the fastest check I wrote. It took me less than 15 minutes to write a check. That was
Wow.
like spur of the moment.
Wow.
And at that point of time, that was one of the largest checks I wrote to him. Just and later on, I asked him, at least tell me what all you do.
Oh my God. I mean, 15 minutes in itself is unbelievable. And if that was one of the largest checks, then it's all the more, difficult to believe that you did that within 15 minutes. But that's awesome.
So this was actually, I'll probably explain how it happened. So the founder stays in my building, and I came to know he is a D2C founder. That point of time, I wasn't aware what D2C is. A D2C deal came to me, and I wanted to meet him to evaluate the deal. So it was a GAN session for me. Now, once I reached out there, he said, I'm closing my round, last check of X lakh rupees is left. I said, Bhai ghar se utha lena, and let's talk about other deals.
So I think that
So
the message for me is if any founder wants to raise money from you, he should shift to your apartment complex. And then, it becomes much simpler, so to say.
it actually becomes a lot simpler, and that's one message we give to the founders. In case you want us to fund a deal, find a common connect.
Hmm.
Don't just send the deal to us directly. You've got a lot better chance in case someone talks about you to us.
Yeah, I
So that's, I think, sorry, good.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying I can completely relate to it. I mean, you're running a syndicate and syndicate of syndicates, so to say. I had a friend who was working in one of the VC firms. He's moved to the UK now, and he told me way back when I just started, my startup kind of journey. He's like, if you find some good deals, let me know. I was like, you're a VC. I'm sure you're getting a lot of inflow, and it's like most of that is junk, and it's unless and until I get a mail from a known person. It could be a professional banker, it could be a friend, it could be a founder we have spoken to in the past, but unless and until it comes through like a personal reference, 99.99% chance it just goes to junk. We just ignore it. So I can completely relate to it.
Longest for me was 3 years to write a check. Uh, Incidentally, the guy's brother studied in MDI, and that's the place I met. And he pitched me the idea. I somewhat liked the idea. Okay, Ishkan, give me more traction. Your valuation is high. This guy kept in touch. I missed 2 rounds in between, and the third round. Then finally we triggered.
15 minutes to 3 years. Wow, that's like quite a range. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, you were speaking about founder interactions, and almost all the investors say the same thing, that look, founder is the most important thing, because if the founder is right, he'll figure out the problem, he'll pivot, blah blah blah. And what I have personally seen as a challenge is most of the guys who come to speak to investors are reasonably polished. They say all the right things, they've done their practice, they know how to spin a tail, so to say. So apart from understanding their background, and whether they have worked in some big brand names or stuff like that, almost like CV value, how do you really evaluate a founder? How do you get under the skin? How do you get confidence in yourself that yes, this is a founder worth betting on?
Right. So it's actually, you need to deep dive, and that's the place where we spend time with the founders, right? Now, the big names don't matter because a cleaner at Goldman can always say that I'm working at Goldman, right?
I,
So
I'm gonna quote this in my future interactions with founders, that तुमने झाड़ू मारा है गोल्डमैन में, तो भी तुम सीवी में लिख सकते हो you're a cleaner at your ex Goldman Sachs, so to say. Sorry, please go on.
and to probably put another thing out there, I used to get CVs where the guy has put in Goldman as one of their employers. Later on, you will realize that the guy was working with a IT outsourcing firm and was deployed in Goldman, right? So Super still is writing the truth. So what happens is a lot of time it's not the brand name which matters. It's like most of the time what we look at is what you have done with that company, right? A VP at Flipkart doesn't mean much, right? Because there may be, let's say, not many VPs in Flipkart, right? So once the organization is large, and I'm not saying VP in Flipkart is small because this is going to get aired, so I don't want to get slaughtered there. But the thing is, let's say in my company, there were 50 VPs, and none of those VPs had got caliber to run a company. So I'm saying Flipkart is a large organization. There may be multiple VPs or let's say senior guys, right? So the whole thing is whether you were in the thick of things, whether you were making a decision, or you were just running the shop, right? Because there is machinery which was already done. You were just one cog in the whole wheel. You weren't driving the wheel. And that makes a lot of difference. So it's the kind of role you were doing, whether with Flipkart or whether with a very small competitor of this, that matters. So the profiling is what matters. Secondly, once you start talking to the founders and you have got knowledge of the space, it's easier to figure out whether the guy has got substance or not. Because once you start going deep and deep, that's the point most of the things start coming out. And if the guy holds, then I think that's a good founder for us. Because if the guy holds, then I think we will figure it out the business with them. Because uh, most of the businesses we entered in, they are doing something different than what they pitched to us 5 years back. Things have changed, things have evolved, market change, new disruption coming. It's mainly the agile founders who will then finally do things.
Sure, sure. You know, one thing I've always found it strange is you don't even drink alcohol. And for many people, to get under the skin of someone, उसको पहले दारू पिलाओ, उसके साथ बैठो, एक cheers करो, then you really get the nerve of the guy. So for a
Mm.
person who is anti-alcohol, how do you socialize, or how do you get under the skin? Do Zoom calls suffice, or you need to do something else?
So again, one correction, I'm not anti-alcohol, I just don't drink alcohol. Right?
Okay.
So, yeah, given the current distributed nature of our investments, there are, I don't know, 30, 40 investments where we never met the founders or we will never meet the founders. So it's like more about, let's say, getting on the Zoom call, doing a ref check. If the deal is coming through some references, someone else has met the founder. Or in case the founder is in a geography where we do have investors, we can do a physical meet with the person, not me, but someone else, just to get a feel of the person, right? So those are the ways generally we actually may not even meet the founders while we are doing the deal.
Got it. Got it. Uh, you spoke about 90 odd deals which you have done as part of your network, so to say, and I'm sure there is a mixed bag of startups doing great and blah blah. Uh, uh, I'm sure you remember from our school days, there was this Hero Honda ad with the tagline, fill it, shut it, forget it types. Just curious if you have any investments which were on similar lines कि बस एक बार पैसा डालो और भूल जाओ वो अपने आप grow कर रहा है, and you don't need to bother, and it's just getting scale, and you're seeing like 10x, 20x, 100x. Wow, this is awesome. Any such amazingly positive experience?
Wish. So there are definitely scale deals in our portfolio where we are too small for the founders now, right? So that's a forced thing that just forget about it. And someday founder will say you need to exit the cap table, we will do that. Then there are cases where founders don't really need us. They feel they've got enough expertise either themselves or with other set of investors. So there again, you're forced to actually just fill it, forget it, and hope that something comes out. So it could be positive and negative both. But yeah, there are tier one founders where probably potentially a lot of our large deals where we hardly take care of the investments now. Founders are in good hands, like either other VCs or they are themselves capable of running. So there we don't get involved too much. So there are multiple companies in the portfolio. So that's not exception. That's like a normal.
good. It's good that you have enough positive, pieces in your portfolio. That's what I'm guessing. Keeps you also going and keeps people like me also going. कि हाँ हाँ ठीक है सौरभ के नाम पे जो है यहाँ पैसा डाल दो ठीक ठाक रिटर्न आ जाएगा. But let's talk about the other side. I know, you mentioned in one of our conversations, given a choice, I would like to can, so many of the founders I work with, so to say. Do you want to share any frustrating experience of working with founders?
Yeah, there are lots because this is like a job, right? When you can crib about anything and everything. So I can always crib about my fellow investors, my founders, and all that. So a lot of time you get into these situations where you feel you are being taken for a ride, right? There are founders who are running a second business separately. There are founders who opened up subsidiaries which are dissociated from the main company. Then there are founders who try to actually do side deals with incoming investors and either try to get you out cheap or they try to get your shares down. And a lot of time you just find even after whatever diligence you do, plain lazy founders that they've raised money, now they don't want to really go out in the market and sell, right? It's more ideas. I'll sit in an office, I'll hire five sales guys and they will do it. So a lot of those stories are there. So we have got a fair share of rants and grips and things like that.
I wish I could say, let's share some of those stories over a drink, but I can't do that with you.
No, coffee or tea is still a drink.
Yeah, point absolutely taken. And I think it's overdue. We need to catch up over a coffee and share some of these notes. We were talking about, kind of bad investments from bad founders rather, or bad founder behavior. But sometimes, despite best intentions, you know, investments go bad and, businesses shut down. Any specific example which you want to share or talk about, lessons from that example? And has anything changed for you, basis, some of those shutdown cases?
So this is anecdotal because this is like one of the controversial topics which generally run on LinkedIn. So I'm just trying to touch and bring some spice into your podcast. So initially, when we got into the investment circle, we were jazzed, we were zapped by the media stories about youngsters doing a lot of things, right? Now, we were relatively young at that point of time. So we we thought about it that 20 something will come out of college one day and then this just change the world, right? Those stories are there. It's just that they are few and far in between. Secondly, we don't get to know the kind of strength they had at the back in terms of advisors, in terms of probably investments, in terms of experience, which was there, which we did not look. So this is again 100% anecdotal. When I look at top 10 of my portfolio companies today, average age of founder is 43. We have lost six companies in our portfolio. Founders all were under 30, right? So this is again not a norm, but this is just a very small cross section coming from our portfolio, right? So things have changed over time. Now we tend to slightly mature founders. The reason is one, they bring in a lot of connections from the industry, so they don't start with ground zero. And secondly, they have something on the table to lose because in five, six companies we lost in the process. I think companies weren't bad, product was salvageable. But once you get into situations upfront and you don't have a lot of skill in the game, you tend to cut your losses because it's investors who are getting the losses, not you in that sense, right? So those are the places I think we lost the company. So our focus has shifted towards more mature founders now. But once we are looking for innovative products, right? That's the place again we go back to the younger founders because once you need something creative and all that, that's the point I think a person of my age, for example, may not be so creative because we bring in a lot of our packages, what can work, what can't work, and all that. So for innovations generally, in case there is a young team that helps, maybe supported by a business founder or a business advisor.
Very interesting message about the age of founders. Again, very anecdotal kind of experience. Uh, there was a time when we were evaluating two different startups, or other people in my network were evaluating two different startups, and one person in the community was mentioning that, look, the ideal age profile for a founder is in his early 30s, because it takes him 5 to 10 years to make it really big. And if he's already in his 40s, then he'll lose steam by the time things are ready to scale. And hence there was a very, so the two startups, one, the founder was in the 30s, and the other, the founder was in the 40s. And the age in itself was working significantly against the other founder, which was quite strange. I hadn't heard about it earlier, but what I'm hearing from you is the other way around, that the more mature guys probably fought out better, and they were able to kind of add more value to your portfolio, and the younger guys somehow kind of lost steam in between. Strange, but yeah, these are the strange instances, as you said, add spice to my podcast. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
No, no. So one of the statistical correction I want to make is that currently when you look at the top 10 companies, the founder's age is 43. But they would have started their companies at the age of 36, 37.
Late 30s.
So
Okay.
because these are top 10 companies, so they are at an average about 6 years old.
Got it. Got it. Good, good, good. Okay. Spoke a lot about investments and founders. Let's talk about angel investors, especially people who've been thinking about angel investments or seen a few episodes of Shark Tank, and they want to taste some part of this mad space. What would your advice be to them?
I'd say just start, right? You can't be sitting on the sideline and say that in case I was on the ground, I would have hit a six on this ball, right? And the problem is that unless you get into the game, you are not playing. So whether Flipkart gives you 1,000x return, how does it matter in your life? Because you're not going to play that game. So angel investing is not something you can look at it from the side lanes, right? You need to be in the field to play, to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's like like any other sport. You're a spectator.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Really appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks for having me, Ram. Have a great day.